Okay. Looks like there's a bunch of people in there now. So thanks so much for jumping on again. If it is again, if it's the first time, thank you as well. We did have a bunch of new registrants for this one. A number of people that are jumping on the whole way through. And yeah, I say on every webinar, it keeps growing. This one is no different. We're delighted to have everyone on here, try and pass some of this knowledge on. So just really appreciate people being on here. You know, we get some really good questions, you know, people seeking out more information over time. And yeah, I really hope today's handy for you. So yeah, we're on our home leg here for our series. And I think today's going to be a really great one. You know, talking about what we've seen manufacturers do in terms of their BIM uptake and design and strategy and whatnot that really works. We're hearing from Ryan Wigham again. Ryan has worked for Space Group, which is the Bimstore parent company, now for 18 years. I didn't actually think it was old enough to work anywhere for 18 years, but there you go. And where Ryan has this, you know, real expert, I think a great perspective on things is in this special position where he's seen the UK BIM market develop, you know, all the way into the mandate, and, you know, now, you know, serves and functions in, you know, the most developed BIM market in the world. He's coming to us today from Newcastle in the UK. He's worked for, you know, just about every manufacturer in the UK. And, you know, still he's our associate director, but lead tech and still content creates for a number of global brands there in the UK where they distribute all over the world. So, you know, just a real content expert. So, yeah, I think he's, you know, really the perfect person to come and, you know, let a bunch of us Australians know what's going on, you know, what he's seen work before, you know, what we should be doing. I imagine he's got some fantastic stories, and hopefully we'll get a good whack of those today. So format is the same. Please ask any questions in the chat. They go to our moderator. We try and answer all of those at the end. You know, sometimes we haven't got through them all. Other times there haven't been many. So we'll see how we go. If we don't get to it, we've got your details. We'll shoot you a quick message. So, sorry, I forgot to change before. That's Ryan. That's who we're going to hear from today. And just lastly, again, a lot of people on here will have seen our webinar series, but, you know, we're up to 5. One more to go. You can go back and watch them all. They're all on our website. They're all on the links that we will have been sending you as a registrant. So I'll hand over to Ryan. And I'll monitor the questions, and we'll talk to you at the end. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Cheers, Tyrone. Thanks for that. Yeah, I definitely feel like I've been working for a long time. Sure, I do look it as well. As Tyrone's just said there, my name's Ryan Wigham. I've been with Space Group 18 years now, 23 years in the construction industry. Left school and served my time as a plater welder before making the switch into architecture in 2001. So from a drawing board perspective, I've seen quite a lot of change in the industry over here in the UK. As Tyrone has just mentioned there, in this session, we're just going to run through a profile of a few well-known manufacturers. Now, in terms of the manufacturers, it's a brand that you may or may not know, but its products that they supply will be the sort of things that will be of interest to you. We'll have a look through some of their BIM stories, the importance of working with a professional partner when you're undertaking a BIM journey. We'll have a closer look at how they're using the Bimstore platform, and then if there's any questions, you can feel free to shout, as Tyrone said, just put them in the chat as we go. Winning with BIM. So I think the first step is defining success. What do we see as winning? And that depends on the viewpoint and the position that it's been approached from. So is the manufacturer looking to gain exposure, brand awareness, interaction with customers, or is it purely sales focused? And what's that framework that they put in place to define success? Looking at it through the eyes of a manufacturer or a specifier, so because they're two different viewpoints. From a specifier, when I'm working on a project, getting drawings done, I want to be able to grab a product easily. I want it to make sure it's accurate, looks like it should, any relevant data in there. For the purposes of this webinar, we're going to have our manufacturer goggles on. So looking from the viewpoint of a manufacturer's success story and with one eye on the specifiers too, as it's all interconnected. And just taking a look at some of those defining factors that our manufacturers hope to achieve through a successful partnership. So here at Bimstore, we see ourselves as a leading designers of and hosts of manufacturer specific BIM content. We've got a wealth of experience, knowledge and expertise in BIM, and a full suite of techs that we use to create objects or work with manufacturers who also work across the architectural team within Space Group. Bimstore itself is a partnership tool with the aim of bringing manufacturers and specifiers together and getting the job done. Essentially, connecting specifiers with product manufacturers at its core. At the start, we used to say that Bimstore was designed by users for users, but it wasn't long before we added with users, because soon we started to build a great community of manufacturers and specifiers at Bimstore, sharing ideas, discovering opportunities. So from my point of view as a specifier, it's about getting those drawings, specifications complete, issued, and a project built on site. I want it done as simply and accurately as possible. In a busy construction environment, such as our architectural office, as much assistance as I can get in the design and specification process isn't only vital, but it's much appreciated. When a manufacturer has what I need, it ticks a box for me as a specifier or someone who's looking to specify products. It sets a tone, builds relationships and trust with a product manufacturer, and it'll make me more likely to use again another project if a positive association has been reached previously. The same with any aspect of that construction stage, whether things went well on site. Given life and a bit of realism to the drawings and the renders that we're producing as a practice, it's imperative in a modern architectural practice. Of course, for me, the technical purposes are the reasons BIM files came first for me. Being able to set layouts, add things where they need to go. Everything after that follows is just an added bonus. So being able to walk planners, clients, end users through a design is such a powerful tool, as opposed to when I started out, it was basically drawings, 2D. Any visualizations you'd have to send off to a specialist company. It would take ages, cost a fortune. Whereas now we can do it all in house just by using BIM software. And so from tender stage through to the construction process and beyond, it isn't just about pretty pictures. It's real-time data and an accurate presentation of a construction project. It just enables us to walk through with clients, end users, whoever it may be. So that accurate content, and whether it's the physical geometry of a product or if it's a material such as a brick or a floor finish, It just allows us to create precise plans and help with design and setting out. It allows for better clash detection and avoidance of costly site errors, which could be pretty common. That's the aim anyway. So from a manufacturer's point of view, there's a heap of avenues a brand can go down to try and harness the power of marketing and decide where to get the best return on investment and value. Construction product manufacturers in a slightly unique place when it comes to BIM, in that you're able to provide your customers, i.e. specifiers, architectural representations of your products in digital form. So where that geometry and metadata contained within the objects allows that product to be added to a BIM project and link it with specifications. From a manufacturer's point of view, it's all about assisting the specifier, making specification as simple, accurate, and useful as possible, and of course getting that product specified. Having BIM as a process, and especially having BIM files when you're a manufacturer, offers a way of doing that, and it also gives you that added bonus of offering brand awareness in a marketing vehicle. So just moving on to some of the manufacturer success stories we've seen here over the years. It's difficult to pick on who to focus, as there's many varied success stories from all types and sizes of manufacturers. We always say that Bimstore, or BIM in general, is a real leveler, whether you're a huge brand or if you're just a small manufacturer. Having those BIM files makes things a much more level playing field when you're trying to get your products in front of specifiers. We've got over almost 400 manufacturers on the front end of Bimstore, and hundreds more we've helped behind the scenes with BIM in one way or another over the years. So I just wanted to briefly explore a few of the brands that have really benefited from BIM and touch on the different types of products and the features available that come together that help manufacturers build relationships with users. In the case of a Bimstore manufacturer success story, it very much draws on all parties involved achieving the goals that partnership was aiming for, namely providing the specifier with the information that they need and the manufacturer being able to deliver that. Things like connecting with the specifiers, being useful, seeing themselves as trailblazers or first to market with something, tying in with their own digital strategies, presenting an innovative face to their customers. A lot of the times, manufacturers found themselves being asked for BIM, or do they have it? A competitor has it, so they feel they want to keep up. Historically, a brand or a manufacturer might have always been really useful to specifiers by providing CAD blocks or things they need from a technical point of view. We often see a manufacturer have really good in-house tech teams, and they just need a bit of guidance on how to get started and the best way of getting things done. With one eye, always trying to keep things simple and obviously gain value. And there's a common similar theme from all the manufacturers of those points I've just mentioned there. Some of these testimonials back that up as well, and just looking to define the aims and goals of a successful partnership. At the heart of it all, though, I suppose from a manufacturer's end goal is to get specified and turn a profit. That's their end goal, getting noticed, getting specified. There's different facets to that process: repeat business, customer satisfaction, and giving value to your customers. So the first brand that I want to sort of touch on is Cubicle Center. So what Cubicle Center do is they create washroom panels. It's a very useful and popular BIM product, and it's used across a whole range of sectors. And there's not many projects that us as a large-scale architect or work on where there isn't sort of toilet blocks going in there. Some of the things they've said to us is that BIM's helped streamline their design to manufacture process at that firm. They've documented a 5 working week efficiency saving as a result of making product data available to design teams in 3D component form, enabling works, orders, fabrication drawings, and cutting lists to be produced faster and with improved accuracy. So although in the main BIM product shouldn't be fabrication level, Cubicle Center use the files to this level just from the nature of what it is. It's quite a straightforward product, and it allows them to take those BIM designs straight into their fabrication software. So you can see why washroom panel objects are popular. Mainly they were a pretty large requirement on many projects, and practices will be designing and working on make up a good proportion of this company's orders. And then you can see from that drawing there, it allows that an architect to accurately place it, make any material changes, or flex the size of that and get that setting out and produce a good accurate drawing. Useful. So Cubicle Center seen real benefits to the business, and it's even improved their lead-in times and increased their productivity. So just coming onto their Bimstore page, their profiles enabled the brand to gain over 600,000 views in the time they've been on the site and over 70,000 downloads. They also linked their Bimstore page with their own website. So using our iframe BIM shelf, that's boosted the downloads by 30%. Their top downloaded object is an inset vanity unit, so that's useful for them to see that. And the search term that's led to downloads is toilet cubicle. In their admin area, they can see a whole host of information as well that I'll touch on in a bit. Secondly, Orange Box. Now, these are another manufacturer where the nature of that product that they sell lends itself very well to BIM. So architects love to add furniture to drawings as it just makes the drawing easier to interpret, as well as gauging a space or following specific FF&E guidance. BIM furniture is really useful to architects who just like to make their designs pop, and end users / clients seem to like it too, with it giving you the ability to rearrange layouts at design stage. You could be sat there with a client moving stuff around. The Orange Box furniture families are really easy to download and add to projects, same as all the manufacturers on Bimstore, and allows for some great experience of client interactions with layouts, such as that one shown there. At a design stage, before anything starts on site, you can have people choosing the furniture, deciding where they want to go, moving it around, all in live, real time. And again, that's just sort of some of the rendered image that basically comes straight out of Revit by using BIM files. It kind of blows my mind a bit from where I was when I started back in 2001 in architecture. Now the Bimstore profile page, it's approaching 1 million views with almost 250,000 downloads. So harnessing lots of eyeballs, lots of downloads. Orangebox also use the Connect campaigns, so they've run several digital campaigns through their Bimstore profile, and that also boosts their downloads and visibility. It varies month to month, but on average, for every 5 views, they're getting 1 download. Another important manufacturer or product on a building is these external works. So Marshalls represent a really important manufacturer type in hard landscaping. Tender drones, beginning with those externals, can be a really powerful design tool, as well as accurately enabling the design of external spaces, and it's allowing for early gauging of quantities and costings, as well as accurate visuals. So when we're working on a project, we can set these spaces up and start producing these renders, and they're not just pretty pictures. These are technical drawings, and the things that can be achieved quite quickly in early ons, really impressive and accurate. And Marshall's benefit from this. Same with costing. So I can put in a product, get an idea of areas needed, or the site furniture, and put them into projects. So much so that Marshall see Bimstore as a key part of their digital strategy. Flipping back onto their Bimstore page, I mentioned before that the Marshall's BIM range, that's made up of material definitions and loadable families. So material definitions, so those pavings, for example, we're not making individual pavings, we make a material that allows a manufacturer to, a specifier to download that product, put it into their project and apply the material so it looks right. Same with, we do a lot of bricks with the likes of Wienerberger, Michael Mersch, and it just allows you to place them and they're going to look right and they're contained with data. Whereas the loadable families are things like their site furniture, which again is very popular download, goes into a project. Great. They've had over 500,000 views and almost 250,000 downloads. One of the biggest takeaways from the Marshalls partnership is that we trained their in-house technical team on how to create their objects in BIM to a Bimstore standard, and that's allowed them to create them themselves, which is what now happens when they have a new product. They create themselves and manage their BIM profile in-house. From a sales success point of view, it's difficult for us to give an exact pathway from a download to a purchase or an order. As a platform, we just help lay the foundations for those opportunities for a manufacturer to explore. Different features can help. We have an API that could link into your downloads to a project or a sale, but it's down to how that manufacturer uses one of those tools that we provide them. And you see this testimonial from Trade Washrooms. So these are a sanitary ware company, and that outlines their own experience in terms of inquiries, and they can associate directly relating 900 grand of inquiries as a direct result of their Bimstore profile in that first 6 months of going live. Starting out on a BIM journey, it's important that you start working with the right partner who's right for you, who's going to help you get moving. All of those above manufacturers that we've just mentioned have benefited from having a BIM portfolio and a presence on Bimstore by way of increasing their visibility and extending their reach to specifiers, particularly when it's a visible object. So the way specifications are now in BIM projects, everything can go in there. So whether that's a 1200 gauge membrane under a concrete slab, or if it's a membrane on a roof, that material can go into the project and into the specification. Visible objects offer even more value because it allows those drawings to be built up. So by providing useful, accurate, data-rich digital versions of your products, it just allows specifiers to include them in their designs. It can't be underestimated the impact this can have on both potential and current clients, as well as being handy for design teams when reviewing, specifying products, costings as well, and demonstrating to local authorities or the design team. And that's why it's important you choose the right partner to work with, as you would in any other area of your business. So your BIM files need to be of good quality, well made. The geometry is representative of the product, so architectural representations, but keeping it to a simple level. Providing metadata parameters inside the object, so not just geometry, giving that data to, linking it through to your documents, brochures, or product information in your own website. You see some examples of a grower list in there from a manufacturer page. So it's just as important as making sure you get the maximum benefit from having your BIM files is how you distribute them. So the Bimstore platform is designed for making connections and capable of assisting you in many ways, giving good reach and ensuring as many eyeballs as possible on your brand. So not only benefiting from a Bimstore presence, but the option to link it onto your own website with a BIM shelf iframe or the use of an API. And these are all linked back to a single source of truth for when you're monitoring these downloads. So a BIM file in action there. So a platform to help distribute your content, and herein lies the point. An architect sees and downloaded a Skyjack product for their access and maintenance strategy drawings, and there you can see that product getting used in the real world environment on site. So we do see a lot of use of lifting equipment like this for these sorts of drawings. Actually, that's that finished project there. I'm not 100% sure if that's a photo of the completed project or one of the design images. I don't know if my eyes are just getting old, but that's the stage that we're at now in design, where some of these renders and images that we could create are just unbelievable. So just to take a closer look at how people use the Bimstore platform. So from a specifiers point of view, it's completely free for them to register. So they're working on a project and come onto Bimstore and using the smart search, so you can browse by product. If you start entering a search term, it narrows our listings down. Or you can browse by manufacturer. So if I know the manufacturer I'm looking for, I'll go to the manufacturer section. This is all focused on a Bimstore point of view, so that's one of the benefits of that iframe. I might not know Bimstore, but I know you as a brand. I'll come to your website and start looking if you've got BIM, and that'll tie into your iframe. You have a control center that keeps you up to date with any manufacturer updates. If I've downloaded one of your products and you change something or you add something and I'm following you as a brand, I'll get notified of my control center. My collections, that allows me to create mini project directories that's accessible to the design team and keep it public or private. So if I'm working on a project, if I'm tasked with, doing that external furniture or the furniture for internals or those toilet cubicle layouts or IPS, I can put all the manufacturer products I want in that and give it a name. Really useful too, and there's thousands of those behind the scenes. My object, so when we're talking about that a BIM community and interacting with the specifiers, a lot of people like to make their own objects of like all kinds. There's all sorts of stuff in my objects, and that just allows users to add their own files, and then other users can download them as well in a reward center. So earning rewards by interacting with that platform. The more things you download, the better score you get, and you start earning t-shirts or hoodies. There's a whole host of options available to partners who utilize our site. So from a manufacturer's point of view, looking to increase your specification and generate your inbound leads. From a marketing point of view, we have curated collections features, so you can add your products to a tailored groups of products. The resources section, so you can add case studies, press releases, videos, all to this section here. It's basically just a way of boosting your marketing campaigns, however you're putting them out there. And these are all available to specifiers and manufacturers, so everybody's seeing that. As a manufacturer, you've got access to your private CMS. So this will have your activity feed, so a live feed that's monitoring your profile interactions in real time. Insight section, so this gives you an overview of your analytics, maps, charts and views of your downloads and views. Search terms, your top downloads, the industry breakdown of the people who are downloading your files, and the regions and cities that they're in. So Bimstore can be set up by region if that was how a manufacturer was wanted, and everything could be filtered or set to date ranges, and everything. Touching on success stories, it's not all front end Bimstore. We do a lot of work away from the front end of Bimstore, where we work with organizations, main contractors, doing all kinds of things. One of the real success stories here was this MetSec. Now they have an app and a link into the website where they utilize our 3D preview models that we've created for them to integrate into their design offering. So you can go onto their website, start selecting a particular detail, one of the MetSec details, and that viewer there, you can't see it here, but that's an interactive 3D preview. So you can spin it around, you can select which area of it is, and they've got a whole heap of those that tie in with their details, and that's that's a really powerful and useful tool. Now, similarly, Staircraft add QR codes to their delivery packs, and this is really interesting. So they were seeing an issue with sort of site work and how things are stored of their products, how things are put together. So we create them a whole host of, same again, those 3D interactive details. There'll be installation and storage guides as a QR code on those delivery packs. So when it's delivered to site, that construction team can scan the QR code and it'll bring up the 3D view to say, look, this is how these products are supposed to go together. This is how those blocks are supposed to be stored on site. Really interesting development all through the use of BIM and a Bimstore partnership. That's about it. If there's any questions. Yeah, you're muted there, Tyrone.
Sorry, I was muted. There we go. Thanks so much, Ryan. It's very interesting. So, yeah, we've got a few questions here. Some good ones. So, got someone asking, what's the best way to manage product updates or discontinued products when all your files have already been downloaded?
So how on a manufacturer profile, you have your profile, and then you'll have a set. I mean, this is from a Bimstore point of view. So you have your listings for each product. If something's discontinued, that's a live profile. You either tell us, switch that one off, or you have the option to log into your admin area and switch that off yourself, and that goes off. If somebody's downloaded it, there's nothing we can do about that other than you have the resource section and to put that out there. Contact the people who've downloaded that via an outreach and let them know.
Yeah.
So there's a few options for that.
Yeah, actually, I had someone else ask me about this the other day about new products. If they have showroom files and things like that, if someone, there might be an architect or a specifier out there that thinks they have all their products, but I guess it'd just be a matter of, trying to make those people aware that there are new products or something's been discontinued through the regular channels. Is that
Yeah.
how you?
Yeah, because you can, if a press release or whatever it is can go onto the resources section. If a specifier has followed you as a brand and you put something out, it'll ping up on their control center And then there's also the option of, if they've downloaded that, you can send them a message to say this product's discontinued, or so there's a few avenues you can do it.
Yeah, so can we, I'm not actually sure, can we do that as a collective email? Like, if we're hosting some files and some products are discontinued, can we help with that? If they've got in,
yeah, it could go on. It
tens-
could go on.
tens of-
It could go onto the resource section as a press release saying, whatever that
Yeah.
update is.
Yeah, and I imagine if we spoke to marketing or something, we could probably, we email everyone that's downloaded those showroom files and things like that.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, sort of the same regular way. I guess, yeah, no different to having brochures and things out there in the wild.
It's a step above having brochures, really, because it's
Yeah.
you're seeing where they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
And that
good.
brochure's static. Once it's printed and handed out, it's static. Whereas when it's digital, it can be updated at any point.
Yeah, and certainly the live information on Bimstore. Cool. Okay. Someone's asked, you mentioned visible products. How do downloads compare for visible and non-visible products on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, it's not something I can accurately say, but a visible product will have more downloads than something that isn't. I mean, when we started doing this BIM journey, the things like membranes or insulation in a wall wouldn't really be too much interest to us because you don't see it. We didn't want to bother putting it in there, but we've now gone past that, where we're actually seeing end users wanting that in in the in their models, for whether it's for a digital twin or just the model having as much accurate information in as possible. So when we used to complete a project, in the UK, and I would imagine it's a similar sort of thing in Australia, we would give the final act would be a health and safety file to that architect. We've done our job, health and safety file, which is just an A3 print off of a certain set of drawings and a specification. There you go. Job done. Whereas it's moved now to, well, what it moved to was like that model became that health and safety file. So there's that Vim file. It's moved onto a USB. It's now in, view as or digital twins, where facilities management can grab anything. Select the wall and see what insulations in there, or grab a roof build up and they'll know what tiles it is, what's the membrane.
Yeah. I remember we spoke about that early on when I joined, and yeah, I did. I was asking about membranes, and I mean, you wouldn't, whilst not super common, you might, if you've got a certain type of waterproofing, and it's going to potentially become part of your floor build-up or wall build-up.
Yeah. We have a good example of a manufacturer here, Glidevale. So they make exactly that, membranes, a whole heap of different membrane types for in your roof or on walls. And it's what we do is create them as a material that's associated to a template. So you download that project, and then you're not actually downloading an object. It isn't a physical object. It's a material with all those with all the data parameters in it. You then transfer that into your project, and then when you're talking about Revit here, when you're creating a roof or a floor, there's a whole heap of different ways of doing it, but getting that product in there as a material is one way of linking it to the spec and making sure your brand's in there. And away from a technical point of view, it's also a marketing vehicle where they see value in being on somewhere like Bimstore, where you can those tools that are available to them, as opposed to a run of brochures or going to a trade show where it costs a ton of money and you can't physically see it. Whereas that having BIM files, whether you're on Bimstore or not, depending on how you're set up, you're given those files to your customers.
Yeah, and I know, having a more building background, I involved in some jobs with some pretty serious waterproofing across the tops of flat roofs and things like that. I'm just trying to think of those cross sections. Things would be marked up as what type of waterproofing and whatnot. But if you have that kind of product and you're pulling cross sections out of Revit, it's just there if you've applied it as a material.
Yeah, you can annotate them and create schedules.
And the same would go for things like framing material, and framing material might be a bit different, but insulation for sure.
But it's exactly the same. Insulation sometimes can create as a minimum as a material, so someone can create that wall type, give it the insulation will be given a zone as a layer in that wall, and then you apply that material to it. Occasionally, depending on the product, we can make that insulation as a wall or a floor or a roof, given the architect or the designer the chance to take that product and then add their different layers on, because obviously it could change depending on thickness of the insulation or whatever that build-up is.
Yeah, so it's sort of it's like the take-up might not be as great, especially where we are in Australia. People might want objects for all these things they can see, and then they might just be designing things themselves in Revit, marking on the specification sheet if an architect's specifying insulation, but as things develop, sort of everything's in there.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so good chance to be early adopters. Hey, we've got a few more questions, but I'll jump in with one. I was thinking about the cubic center examples. Like with that content, I wanted to ask, and this might help some people, is that parametric content in that those files will fill a space in a way? They can be sort of dragged and they populate into the areas required in those designs?
Yeah, so it gets a little bit complicated because it's not nowadays it isn't as simple as just banging in a row of cubicles. You have to have, depending on the layout, there's regulations you have to have. If there's more than X amount of cubicles, one of them has to be ambulate, 1200 wide. But so you can the parametric, so you can change the heights, the widths. You can make them to be arrayed, so you can put them in there and just clicking it up and it'll array them in. There's a heap of different options you can go down when you're creating them. It is always best to try to keep them simple. The Cubicle Center one is interesting because they use the Revit files for fabrication, whereas many people do that. We don't advise to do it, but at the end of the day, it's a panel that's a width and a height, a thickness, a material on it, maybe a few holes punched for hinges or handles. So it's but they're parametric.
Yeah, it's probably a product that's not super critical in terms of the distances and things like that. They can get a good enough idea based on the model. And how does that work then? Does the architect or designer is sending the model back to Cubic Center?
Yeah, Cubicle Center actually can do that themselves. So as an architect, I can download those products, put them in my plans, send that plan back to Cubicle Center and say, look, this is what I need, and then they'll do their thing. Or I can roughly do it. Sometimes we'll just say, look, I need this is the layout. Cubicle actually have in-house capability to do that. You send them people send them their BIM model. A lot of manufacturers on Bimstore do that, or they'll get us to do it by way of like a subcontract, and they'll populate that themselves.
Yeah, okay. So that's interesting. So we give them the content with enough options for them to be able to sort of build their system into their space, and then giving it back. The manufacturer like that is able to work off that for what they need to supply.
Yeah, I mean that in itself is a success story where an early adopter or a manufacturer come to us, we'll go through it all, often we'll create a range of products for them to start with, then train them up how to do it, and then they'll take it on, start creating their own objects, and then again, someone like Cubicle Center, they then have the facility and the capability of offering that service to architects. We'll populate your model with these objects, and away they go.
Yeah, because we talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of manufacturers that don't quite get the parametric nature of it all. And then, say I was talking to a facade manufacturer yesterday, and they understood it already. But then I've spoken to others that, don't realize you can build something that'll wrap around their building, and it'll wrap around windows, and you can change end caps and change profiles of the claddings and things like that. So
it's always good when you're thinking about parametric, think of a door. So that door could be product A. So it's still one SKU, but then that door could change in width and height, and that's what the parametric side allows that to do. So you build that door so that someone can update the height and the width.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, some other questions. So, is Bimstore a global network or localized to where we sell our products? I can answer that one, and that is, you can list your products to certain countries. A lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but a lot of manufacturers do just open it up to a global setting. And then interestingly, we see a lot of, so we don't have an office in Brazil, but we're seeing like huge amount of downloads in Brazil from, content. So I believe Brazil's got a BIM mandate, but their manufacturers probably haven't caught up. So, they've got a mandate that certain buildings, I'm not exactly sure what it is, certain buildings need to be BIM modeled, probably government buildings. And then they would have a whole host of manufacturers that haven't got BIM objects. So, we see things like that, where I think Saudi Arabia is another similar one, where they're just trying to create rich models. They need to BIM model buildings, and just local suppliers haven't got those ready.
So Bimstore is a global platform, so people can view your brand, download your products from all over the world, but it can be set up by region. So if you only wanted one region to see it, that can be set up. If you operate in several regions, Bimstore will do that. So you might sell 10 products in one region, but sell 3 in another. Bimstore could be set up so that someone in region A sees the 10, someone in region B only sees the 3. It's a different logo, different address. Bimstore do all of
that. Yeah, and we've done some work for a tap manufacturer, and we did it across 3 regions: New Zealand, Australia, and North America, and they're all the same products, just different data in the files. So you manage all of that. Another question here. So does Sketchfab accept RBT files?
Sorry, Taiwan, I lost you
there. Does Sketchfab accept basically Revit files to view the way you're showing? I think that was with the METSEC example.
No, we have to. So METSEC's its own thing that isn't technically a BIM file, but when you go into a lot of the product lists on Bimstore, it'll have that 3D viewer, the Sketchfab. We have to, if it's a product, we have to export that to some different software and then import it into a Sketchfab and apply the materials. So the METSEC 3D previews and the StairCraft ones, we build them up as Revit files and then export them to some different software to then import it into Sketchfab and add the materials.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's a little bit of work there.
Yeah, but they're really handy. It makes the listings pop from just from a product level, but then from the likes of METSEC, it's just really handy tools of being able to show those details in 3D.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, last question. Someone's asked how many parameters or options, I guess, do you think you can have in a curtain wall system before the files get too large?
I mean, it just depends on what options they mean. So from a curtain wall point of view, I think you just want to keep it as simple as possible. You could put the 2D details in there, or just keep it a bit more generic. But I don't know if the meaning sort of hinges or openings. It's tough to say really. Same with any
Yeah.
other content you want to keep. You really want to keep it as light as you can.
Oh, I think we lost you a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'd lost you then. You back?
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I'm not sure how we're going with our connection now. So if you can hear me, we'll answer more of that parameters question to the person that asked it. But hopefully you can see my screen, and that's our webinar series. Again, just plugging that. Like I said, go back and watch the previous ones, and we'll have future trends on June 19. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you pick something up, and any other questions you've got, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And thank you so much, Ryan, for your time as well.
No problem, Tyrone.
Excellent.
Yeah. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.